Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. A little bit of a quick succession video from the last one. I'm kind of toying with the lighting right now in here because I don't have really good enough lighting at this sort of hour of the day, and I'm in my bathroom, so welcome to my bathroom, by the way. I have my ring light, and I hate the lighting in my bathroom, so I almost never turn it on. It's like these hot lights, it's directly overhead, and it's like this warm lighting, but I'm like, well, let's see. I'll show you what it looks like when I turn it off. I think I'm actually going to leave it off because, well, I think it kind of looks nice to warm up the overall image. I think that it might sort of take away from the visibility of the color of the makeup that I'm going to use today. I don't know. What do you guys think? I guess we'll find out, huh? So in today's video, I wanted to, I'm going to be a melt stan again and a dark matter stan because I'm here to talk about caffeine and do some makeup and just sort of have some fun with it. Bringing back the tried and true, my favorite cock mug. And unfortunately, the cock mug today does not have delicious dark matter coffee in it because I ran out a while back. I quit coffee recently for the most part. Today is a cheat day. Today is Sunday. I was on my feet for 13 hours yesterday waiting on hundreds of guests in our venue. There were thousands of guests in our venue, about, oh, let's see, maybe close to 9,500 to 10,000 guests over the course of the day. I don't think that's right math, but over 9,000, let's say that. Very busy, lots of people, many children. It's that time of year where we're doing these holiday shows, and I don't want to say too much because, you know, try to reserve what I say about my work life on YouTube because that kind of thing can get you in trouble. Even if you don't say where you work, it's probably not the smartest idea if you want to remain employed, if even temporarily, before, you know, you start driving a truck for a living, which is what I am aspiring to do soon. But yeah, this is from a very well-known coffee chain, and it's just all right, you know. I wanted a little extra boost today. I thought it would be nice to have a little caffeine and have my sort of caffeine cheat day be on Sundays. I haven't completely omitted caffeine. What I did was, I have found this successful in the past. I wean off of coffee because, especially certain coffee, espresso drinks, it's crazy that we don't really think about this so much, how if you're drinking a medium size or large size espresso drink, you might be taking in 3, 4, 5 shots of espresso at a time, and that is so much caffeine. I think some of us are more sensitive to it than others, but I can't not think about how in our society so many people struggle with anxiety, and it's like there's this sort of convergence of different factors that contribute to anxiety, but I think that caffeine is one of the under discussed aspects of anxiety, of chronic anxiety. And I have found that to be super true for myself. When I cut caffeine, whatever sort of like this low grade, constant hum of anxiety that I had that I didn't even fully recognize goes away. And I just feel more relaxed and calm, and things don't faze me or upset me the way they normally would, even at work, especially at work. I feel like it's much easier for me to not get ruffled by like a jerk customer because, you know, when you work in the service industry, especially with alcohol, you're going to deal with a lot of jerks. It's just par for the course. And if you let their energy, if you let them inflict their dick energy on you, it's going to mess with your time, like your time and your precious life. It's like, man, if I got to be in this environment anyway, I don't want to let you get to me with your own dysfunction. Like, you keep that shit to yourself, right? So anyway, I'm going on a tangent. That is one of my special talents. But the less caffeine I drink, the less affected I am by stressors in general, right? So, side note, one of the things that I find myself doing that drives me nuts, and I don't want to always do that, is when people sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, they use the word right at the end of a sentence. And it's like, what you're doing when you do that is you're asking the person listening or the audience to affirm what you just said. You're sort of like making them affirm it. And I don't know, I have a minor obsession with nuances of language and semantics. And as a person with even a small journalism background, I feel like it's disingenuous. Tangent. Anyway, having some mediocre coffee, it's definitely making me a little extra alert today. But just want to say, I think when I'm trucking and when I'm doing the YouTubes, I'm going to try to get these guys to sponsor me, because they should definitely get some other people in industries where caffeine is like a ubiquitous presence or stimulants, and where that's maybe not the best thing. For me, coffee has been this yo-yo thing where I don't have just the anxiety effect, but I also have an energy yo-yo situation happening where I drink coffee and I crash so hard, and then I drink more coffee, and it's this cycle. And then I don't sleep well. And I think even if I only were to have a cup of coffee in the morning, it affects my sleep that night. So I know I probably won't have as good of sleep tonight, but I'm like, well, I don't have to be anywhere till kind of late tomorrow. So these kinds of things don't work for everyone, but my approach to something like this is like, if I can have a cheat day here and there, it makes it easier for me to omit it the rest of the time. And feeling better is enough of a reward for me to not feel deprived from not drinking coffee. Little history here. As I said in my last video, I'm 43. I've been drinking coffee since I was 11 years old. So 42 years I've been drinking coffee, or 32 years, sorry, math. I've been drinking coffee, and I started drinking it at a time in my life when things were pretty messed up at home, and it became an instant security blanket. I'll never forget the first time I tasted coffee was when I was 7, and we had to go on an early flight, and my dad made us mochas, which probably had like very little coffee in them. It was like hot chocolate with coffee, and I loved it immediately. And like my early memories of coffee are my grandfather, who had been in AA, and he had gotten sober. He had had a really intense struggle with alcohol and other substances, and he was always like a hero in my childhood because he had gotten sober. But his constants were hard candy, dishes of hard candy all over the house, which of course I loved. Let's go visit grandpa and have candy. And he loved going out to breakfast, which is still definitely my jam. But he also had coffee, always had coffee. I remember the smell of like these like lukewarm cups of coffee around the house when I was at his place that had like cream and sugar, always lots of cream and sugar. And I don't know how I knew, like, it's not like I drank it, but just something about those memories, it really has an impact on me. I guess like a lot of people, I associate coffee with comfort. It's a security blanket feeling. The smell of coffee makes me happy, especially the smell of good coffee. And it's a really distinctive difference. When I make dark matter coffee in my house, if I were to like go outside and come back in, the whole building, like the hallways outside my apartment smell awesome, because that shit is just phenomenal. Anyway, those small roasters, man, the way they do it is so different, and it's so good. I'm not getting paid by any of those people to say that, but you know, I just believe in celebrating things that are made well with passion. While I talk about caffeine and whatnot, I'm going to bust out the Rust palette, which I have used, I think, in maybe another video at some point, or I don't know if I just showed it. I might have been using the mirror, or maybe it might have been the Gemini palette. They have some similarities, but one thing I do when I really love a palette is I'll keep the box. And it's silly because I have my makeup in a really nice makeup case where it doesn't get like, you know, messed around or whatever, but I want it to stay looking like new. I think this is a really gorgeous, this is beautiful packaging on the part of Melt. I love Melt. I'll Melt stand forever, man. I don't care. Maybe someday, if and when my channel grows, I can get Melt to work with me and send me some cool PR so I can spam them more. Anyway, this is the Rust palette, and I've been a fan of Melt for long enough. Here, let me hold it a little bit closer to the camera and see if you can get a good view of it, of these gorgeous colors. I feel like my lighting isn't doing the best job of capturing color today and whatnot. I hope that's not the case, but I've been a fan of Melt for so long that I had the original Rust stack, which I think I might actually have in here, or bits of it. That's Cheese and Parties. Let's see here. That is, oh man, I have some old Melt stuff in here. Those neons just turn me on, baby. What can I say? At some point I'll have to do something with those, but I think, oh, are you the one? Is it you? Are you part? Yep. So this is like the actual rust stack from before they came out with the whole palette. They did that with a couple of their, so there's only 4 colors in it. They did that with a couple of their stacks where they made them into palettes, and that's kind of cool because they sort of expanded on the concept. Man, these colors are really amazing. They're sort of earthy brown tones, and sort of with these, they're very warm. Everything about this is really warm. And also the other thing I really love about this particular palette is that there are only 3 metallic colors in it. And the rest of them are these awesome, they call them ultra matte, I think, or these just really matte colors, really richly pigmented colors that are just gorgeous. Sorry, I can't help myself. So anyway, I'm gonna go in with, starting with Antique. That's one of the colors I really like to use. It's sort of this peachy color. And oh man, these, they're super soft. So they will, have some fallout. So that's one thing about these is, I think is true with a lot of melt eyeshadows, is with the darker colors, you have to be careful with fallout because it can kind of get everywhere. And that's where having some, a little bit of extra skill doesn't hurt. I usually hold like a piece of tissue over my cheek if I'm doing certain things with some of the darker matte colors that are gonna have that fallout. It's like the flip side of having such beautiful pigments and such soft texture in the pan that it goes onto your brush and it is really nice on your skin. So anyway, caffeine, coffee. I don't know how many other people have this problem, and you know, it's kind of a personal thing to talk about, but I think it's relevant. I'm big in talking about health things. I think it's like, let's destigmatize things. Let's just talk about things like we're adults, because, you know, we all have bodies, and I think it's dumb to be hesitant or afraid to talk about certain things. So like one of the things for me about coffee, and I mean caffeine in general, is it makes me have to pee so frequently, and it's gotten worse as I get older. I'm getting a lot more sensitive to caffeine. So that's part of the thing with sleep. And I already knew, I was like, so when I had the driving job before, and I was doing the delivery job, it was frustrating how often I had to pee. I'm like, man, I need the caffeine because I'm doing this super physical job, and the caffeine totally helps with that. But I can't be constantly having to stop. And sometimes you're in situations where you can't use the restroom, especially with COVID. We were working during COVID, and you're in people's houses, and some people are weird about that. Most people were cool about letting you use the bathroom, but you never really want to ask people to use their bathroom unless, it kind of depends on the person. If they're cool and chill and don't seem like they're going to be, you know, if they treat you like a person right off the bat, then you know it's probably okay. And obviously you're respectful and careful about how you do that. You keep your mask on and, you know, wash your hands and all that good stuff, whatever. Isn't this such a beautiful color? Because I love that it's peachy and soft. It's the warmth of these colors that really makes them so pleasing to look at to me. So I really like how my complexion makeup turned out today too. It's one thing I think I'm pretty darn good at, is matching my complexion accurately. And I always use like 2 or 3 different foundations to get that. And one of the things I used is a tinted sunscreen. I'm not even going outside today, but whatever, that's what I did. I'm just sort of making this up as I go along. I thought that would be fun to do. So I think I'm gonna bust into some of this yellow shade Erode. I love yellows, and a lot of them don't really work on me, but these ones, being as warm as they are, they do. Like the neon yellow and the it's called the radioactive stack. That does not work on me at all, and I always want to use it, but certain yellows, for some reason, it's almost like they fade into my skin. It's like once they're on, they don't have the pop after a little bit. It's like they settle into the skin. I don't even know how to describe that. And I think that's a common enough issue with that particular pigment. I think that if you really want yellow to stand out, you have to do a white base underneath it, or a lighter base. Isn't this gorgeous? I just really enjoy this sort of sunsetty type of effect. I thought, you know, let me just sort of build out a warm, smoky eye. And as you can see, you know, I think a lot of people who don't know how to do makeup, they get overwhelmed and they're like, oh, well, I don't have the artistic skill. But some of it is just patience with and having the right kind of brush and a very simple technique. You see I'm doing this sort of circular brushing motion. I'm not pressing too hard into the eyelid, and I'm just letting the brush do the work and blend in the different colors together. And it's really nice how you get that sort of soft effect. It's all about taking your time and blending. So that's why I should just get another one of these brushes. I don't know what number this is. I only know that it's a Morphe brush, but I use it so much that sometimes while I'm doing makeup, I'll clean it off and to use a different color. Let's take a minute, take a breath, and have a sip of coffee out of the cock mug. And I got a large coffee today. I'm not using the actual term they use there, but you know, you already know who I'm talking about, right? I don't know why I don't want to say the name, but I don't like promoting brands like that unless it's a brand that I'm really geeked about. Yeah, and I dumped out like half of it, and like within 3 sips, I was like, it overstimulated my gut, shall we say. Let me put it politely. Now I've got a really nice, warm, sunsetty base. Oh, it's satisfying to look at, I think. I'm just going to keep going down the line. So next I'm going to go into Rubbish, which is one of the colors that's in the original palette. The original palette has Rubbish. Let's see. Classic is the lightest tone. Is Antique in that one? I don't remember. Classic, Rubbish, Rust, and Mar. I think Mar. I don't know. Oh, you know what? I just realized the original Rust stack had 5 colors in it, and one of them was Rot, I think, because this is Rot too. So it was a similar version. It was similar to this dark brown color. And I think that one I dropped it and it broke. And that's the other downside of having these really soft, awesome, highly pigmented colors, is that if you drop them, you're screwed because they break real easily. And then it's like, you have makeup dust everywhere. You can't put that back in a makeup case or something because it'll make a giant mess. Okay, Rubbish. Now, no, I'm not saying Rubbish like that. I'm saying Rubbish is the color I'm going to use next. Anyway, I was starting to say this earlier, and then I did the thing I usually do, which is tangent, especially when I have caffeine in my system. Holy shit. I started using this stuff called MudWtr, and if you know, it's maybe you have seen ads for that in your Instagram feed or whatever. That's where I first saw it a long time ago, and I just had it in the back of my mind, and I was like, I kept wanting to try it. There are other similar things out there. It is a chai. It's a powder. It's chai with cacao powder and then some powdered different types of mushrooms and like adaptogens that are supposed to be like reishi mushroom and chaga and lion's mane, cordyceps. I don't know if I'm getting that all completely accurate, but close. And then turmeric. I know there's turmeric in it. Sea salt. There's like a tiny amount of sea salt. And it's a substitute for coffee, and it's supposed to be warm and comforting with a fraction of the caffeine. I use that as a way to wean. I like it, but I always want it. I think the hardest thing for me is I really love bitterness. That's one of the things I love about coffee. I like the intensity of the flavor and the bitterness of the flavor. And that you don't get that with the MudWtr. So I found myself adding, like, I added for a little bit, I would add like a pinch of cayenne. I like heat, a little bit more cinnamon, some black pepper. So it's basically pumping up the chai flavor a little bit more and adding some actual like heat to it with the cayenne. And then I started adding a little bit more cacao powder because I like a little bit more of that flavor. It sort of helps to give me more of something that feels like I'm having a coffee. I used a coconut milk based creamer in it, or sometimes I'll use regular half and half in it. And then I sort of cheated and added like a chai bag to it, which is increasing the caffeine, but still, even a cup of that with a tea bag in it, I think is about half as much caffeine as a regular cup of coffee. So I can feel the difference. And the major thing is, well, I know if I'm having too much caffeine because I have to pee every 10 minutes. I'm exaggerating, but you know, in a way that is interfering with your everyday life stuff that you're trying to get done. Like, oh, you go to the store and you have to think, does this store have a bathroom? Or like worse, these bathrooms in these stores near me are disgusting. Like, I don't want to have to use that bathroom if I can avoid it. Hey, a lot of bathroom talk in this video, but we're talking about coffee, so the two things kind of go together, let's be real. Okay, rubbish. Let's put some rubbish on here. Ooh, yeah, deepening the crease a little bit. So since I started using the MudWtr, I have felt better. I've had better sleep, deeper sleep. I'm already sort of regretting the coffee I had today because I already know, like, I've been sleeping so well and I'm not going to sleep as well tonight, and that kind of sucks. But, you know, I've really been disciplined in making changes in my life over the last several years. I quit alcohol. I quit cigarettes. I quit weed. And that's another subject for another video that I'd like to talk about. I've gotten to be friends with a YouTuber, a YouTube trucker, who advised me to be cautious talking about weed because they're like, well, you'll get a following. If and when you get a following, you will find people that, you know, sort of hater types that decide to send that video to your company and try to get you fired. And I think that's shit. I'm not surprised that that could be an issue. But what I decided was, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. I plan to make a video talking about that because I think it's a really important subject that a lot of people relate with. And my motive in making videos and any type of content that I make is to help enlighten others, share information. I think that's what we're all here for. Not that I'm some kind of guru, but if you have the benefit of certain experiences and you're comfortable speaking about those things and you know how to verbalize things, then why not? Why not share it with others? That's how I feel about it. It's not necessarily advocating for a lifestyle to talk about you having had experience with it at all. If anything, it's kind of the opposite, being like, hey, I did this thing for a long time. I realized it wasn't working for me and I changed it. And that's sort of a broader discussion about recovery that I will talk about often, I think, in my videos, because recovery has been a big part of my life. I never want to be preachy. It's not even that. It's that I think things you learn in recovery can be valuable to people who are not in recovery. It's just about like learning how to read yourself better, listen to yourself better, and have empathy, have compassion for yourself, have love for yourself, and be able to say, hey man, I don't like what you're doing. Well, let's change it. Let's look at this. Let's hear ourselves. It's that inner listening. Something too that I've gained a lot of from yoga. Learning how to slow down and listen, because I have always been more of a fly by the seat of my pants person and like really hard on myself. And I think it's useful to be open to the idea that people can always change. You know, we evolve, we grow. It's cool, man. It's cool to be who you are. It's cool to have struggles with things and realize that shit ain't working for you and then change it up. You know, we don't have to always make it so loaded, like judgy and harsh. And I think what I'm kind of trying to say is, let me talk about it in terms of food. That's something I know a lot about too, and like I've had issues with throughout a lot of my life. I don't like using the terms good and bad to describe how I ate or describe foods, like, oh, I ate bad and da-da-da. I think those types of emotionally loaded terms are unhelpful. And I think it's better to be like, I did something that wasn't desirable for the outcome that I want. And when you can sort of remove the emotional judgment words and replace them with more pragmatic, neutral words, it helps you make sense of stuff in a way that you can then use. Because when you're caught up in emotions, it can be very difficult to you know, move forward. You just kind of can get stuck in a loop. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. I'm like finding myself wanting to go through like all of these colors, but you know, I have a really nice deep kind of light smoky eye happening right now. And again, I'm trying not to make this video a million years long because y'all know I can do that. I'm using the same brush. I need to get another one that's the same as this because I have other brushes, but none of them are exactly like this one. And for some reason, it's like the right amount of width and roundness to give me the kind of effect that I'm going for. It's like flat, just flat enough on the top. Anywho, okay, now I'm going to go into rust. Rust is a really nice warm brown, warm sort of reddish brown color. So I'm busting into that right there. And I'm just going to try to keep it a little bit more to the corner here. I think I will grab another brush in a second here to make it, because this brush, the thing about it is it's not going to give you much in the way of shape. It's more just going to give you smoke, which is nice. But then you might want to make it a little bit more defined on top of that. So yeah, MudWtr has been good. It's been working for me. I like it. There are a lot of different alternatives. I think even just stepping down from coffee with tea, like starting with black tea and then switching to green tea, has been great for me. But I encourage anybody out there who feels like they overdo the caffeine, or just if you don't even think about it, if it hasn't really crossed your mind, but you realize that you have anxiety, you know that, or you have issues with sleep, try working on their caffeine consumption if you haven't already. It may seem like a no-brainer, but for so many of us, it's like, oh no, I can't give that up. And that's been hard for me too, man, because I gave up other things. It's like, I need one vice. I need one last vice. And that's totally how I feel about it. I friggin' love coffee. But one of the things that I have learned that has worked really, really well for me is when I identify something's not working for me, but I don't want to change that thing because it's like, it feels threatening to give it up. It's like, no, I need to cling to this thing. This thing helps me. I say to myself, I can't use it now, but it'll be here later, you know? And I'll talk about weed in another juncture, probably more than one video. I think it's such an interesting subject, and it's so timely because a lot of people are, you know, using it more now than they ever were before, or for the first time, whatever. And that's what I say about that. Like, I'm going into trucking. I'm really excited about it. There were a multitude of reasons why using weed wasn't working for me for a long time, and it took me a long time to change that habit, and I did, and I'm really glad that I did. But that's what I have said to myself too. It's like, I don't think I'll never smoke weed again. I just am not going to use it now or anytime soon because I have goals that are in conflict with that. And it feels good to just sort of remove the, like, I need this thing. Like, you know, we tell ourselves we need stuff, and sometimes we don't. Most of the time, we need way less than we think we do in general. We need food, we need fuel, meaning food, shelter, rest, hydration, and you know, a little love. I think we need support. And when I say love, I mean support. I mean, like, I don't mean just like romantic. I mean support from family and friends. I think if you have those things, you don't necessarily need substances. The word need is tricky, and it's important for us to listen to ourselves when we're telling ourselves, I need this, I need it. Do you really? You know. Anyway, I hope I don't sound like some kind of, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I do know what I'm trying to say, but I'm self-conscious because I think that for some people it's hard to hear certain messages and it's like a turnoff. So I'm conscious of that, and I don't want to be like sounding like I'm a preachy ninny. I'm grabbing a beauty blender that has some leftover concealer on it from earlier, and I'm just sort of tapping around the eye to edit a little bit. This video is getting too dang long. I'm gonna have to edit it down a little bit. Speaking of editing. So I'm taking another brush here. I love this brush. It's just really a pretty brush. It's the Queen blending brush. And I don't know what this brand is. I'm trying to get it to focus and it's not. Dang it. Sorry. Bad, Jana. Okay, I'm gonna use Mar, which is the next darker color. So I'm kind of using like all these colors today. That's fine. Whatever, let's have some fun with it. But this one isn't such a broad brush, so I can make it a little bit more. It's blendy. It's not a super like specific type of brush, but I can. Oof, that's a little too. I'll fix it. It's just the rust palette makes the most beautiful smoky eye, and I really like it for this time of year. So that's the thing. I was looking at that new palette, and it has so many colors in it, and it's pricey. And if you are someone who is going to use that palette regularly, I know it's worth it. It's so worth it. But I'm not going to use it regularly, and I'm like, I don't want to spend the money on that. So let me go into one of my tried and true Melt Cosmetics favorites and give them a little unneeded spam anyway. They don't need my input to know how awesome they are, but I'm wondering if there's anything I left out that I wanted to talk about with regards to caffeine and coffee. I think I pretty much got everything across that I wanted to say. I just think these kind of subjects are good to consider. I think it's useful to question our actions and how they can impact us, and sometimes you gotta make a little bit of a change. And it doesn't have to be forever. That's what works well. We talk about that in my recovery group a lot. You know, sometimes it's really hard to make a change if you tell yourself that I can never do this thing again. Even if it's something you know has been really harmful in your life, like for me, alcohol was. I just found it better for myself to be like, maybe I'll drink again someday. Like, I love wine. Maybe I'll drink wine again someday. I'm just not drinking it today, and I'll worry about that another day. And it makes it easier because you can only focus on today anyway. You know what I mean? So that's my perspective. People have very strong feelings about recovery, and they might not concur with mine, and that is okay. I'm just using this brush with some of the leftover color on it to blend out. I might be getting a little bit muddy, but that's one nice thing about this kind of palette is I think you can get away with that. Okay, so I'm gonna go off camera for a little bit, and I'm gonna just go in with a little bit of the deepest color, Rot 2. It's just such an awesome coffee black brown. Really like that. And I'm gonna then take a couple of these metallic colors and put them over the center of the eye like I tend to do. It is my sort of thing that I like to do. Throw some eyeliner on and do some mascara, and I'll be right back and I'll show it to you. All right, this is the finished look. It's a very grungy eye, and that's kind of what I was saying before, or trying to say, is I think these colors can be kind of forgiving. And if you're like me and you don't really like to do a super structured, like cut crease type of eye, that's just not really my thing, especially now with the way my eyelids are, you know, the skin on my eyelids is different than it used to be. I don't want to harp on that so much, but I kind of do. But, you know, if I had 17-year-old eyelids, maybe I would want to do a cut crease, but now that kind of thing is, it just feels a little too structured to me, and I've always been kind of a grungy girl anyway, so I really love this type of more rough, smoky, grungy look. I almost didn't do liner at all on this, and I kind of liked it better before I did the liner, but the thing that I end up doing is my eye shape is sort of downturn almond shape, and when I add the eyeliner, it really pulls up the corners of the eyes, and I really like that look. So that's kind of why I always end up defaulting to, well, I got to do the wing. You know, it just really ties the room together. And I literally used every color in this palette. I used a little bit. I hardly used any of Classic, this awesome cream color. It has a lot of pigment for a very light color. I don't know if that's like an unusual thing or if that makes sense to even say that, but it's like this sort of vanilla creamy color, and I used it just on the inner corners a little bit. I think it makes a really nice contrast. Sometimes I'll put it on a really fluffy brush, and my favorite fluffy brush is this guy right here, which I have used in previous videos. It is the 35E brush by Farrah. I'm really into Farrah brushes, and the handle on this brush I really love because it's very streamlined and comfort grip. But I love this fluffy brush as just sort of, when I finish an eye look, I really like to just sort of take one of the lighter shades in a palette, like one of these two. I actually did this a little bit with, what is it called again? Antique. I use a little bit of that to sort of blend out the outer part of the eye. So, and I'll even kind of go up high with it up here to sort of just smoke it out and make sure the edges are really soft. This is not my most perfect eye by any means, but again, it's a grungy kind of look. So to me, it's fine that it's not, you know, perfected at all. And then what I did on the sort of more inner part of the eye is use, I can't read them upside down, Ravage, Redux, and Tarnish. this, and this in that sequence. The lighting really doesn't do this justice because this is a really incredible deep brown metallic, and it's so buttery soft and it goes on so nicely. So I sort of do that first toward the outer corner, and then I'll do this gorgeous coppery shade redux sort of leading into the center of the eye. Again, super buttery and densely pigmented, just an amazing, these metallics are so nice. And then tarnish as sort of the highlight over the center part of the eye and on the lower center part of the eye. So if you can see that. And I use the Rot 2 color, which is maybe one of my favorite deep dark browns of all time. I feel like those are undervalued. Like, people love a black shade in a smoky eye. My first love by Melt Cosmetics is this Dark Matter stack, and the shade Dark Matter is just this intense black, awesome charcoal black, highly pigmented. And I feel like Rot 2 is a brown version of Dark Matter. It's just awesome. And especially certain eye colors, it just can really add an awesome, intense impact. Did I say awesome? I might have said that once or twice. I didn't even do a lip color on this. I just have lip gloss on and did a little bit of blush. I've still been using the Milk Cosmetics, darn it, what are they called? These guys. Work is the shade, and it's the Lip and Cheek. It's just called Lip and Cheek. And I really love it. It has a nice citrusy smell. It has a little bit of glow to it. And then I used another blush sort of toward the outside to sort of give a little depth at the cheekbones. But this stuff I'm obsessed with, and they run out of it a lot at Sephora. So I think this color Work, W-E-R-K, is pretty popular, but Milk is another brand that I really like. Speaking of which, let me finish this off, even though I'm not going anywhere and I don't need to do this, but I just bought this recently. It is the Milk Hydro setting spray, and I use the Milk Hydro primer, which has been a favorite of mine for a long time. I like that it has just a little bit of grippiness to it, and I keep it by my window, which makes it cold. It feels so good to put on your face first before you do your makeup. The first time I used this, I sprayed it directly at my face, and it was like big drops of oil because it has, you know, enough oil in it. It hadn't sort of emulsified, so shake it well before you use it. But oh man, it feels so good. There's a Sephora really close to where I work, and when we have breaks, I'll run over there sometimes, which is kind of dangerous, and spray it from their tester, just to test it again, just, you know, making sure it works, making sure it still works. But, you know, to make my makeup look a little bit refreshed. And I'm really happy with how this looks. I think it's really pretty and grungy and kind of, you know, takes me back to my grunge girl 90s high school roots. Yeah, I like that. So anyway, this has been talking about coffee and the Rust palette by Melt Cosmetics, being a stan for the things that I love most, and talking about making changes in life and how that doesn't have to be too scary. And I hope some of this has been useful. If you can tell, I'm kind of caffeinated because I'm talking real fast. So I'm going to spend the rest of my Sunday chilling because I need to rest up after that 13-hour day on my feet. Been on my feet again for a while. This is my makeup to lay down and read for a while. So anyway, hope you found something useful in this video. I will catch you on the next one.